Welcome, Hades here. In this video, what I want to do is give you an overview of what your figure drawing learning process, journey, map will look like, and all the things that you may want to cover. So I'm just going to jump right into it. So all these things, you got gesture, you got form, anatomy, and shape. In a way, you could start with, gesture. That's usually quite difficult. I generally recommend starting with form because it's just easier to understand, right? Because with form, you're just getting good at drawing boxes and cylinders. And drawing boxes and cylinders, right? You just need to know how perspective works. With a gesture, it's very abstract. And of course, you wouldn't really want to start with anatomy because, well, you need the form to draw on top of the anatomy. So it would be very weird if you started with anatomy. You could start with shape, but I feel like that works for a certain group of people. But I recommend form. It's generally the easiest. So you've learned how to draw boxes, you've learned how to draw cylinders, and you want to draw figures. So what do? Well, I say mannequinize a figure with boxes and cylinders. What your first stage could be is you will take reference like this, and on top of it, you will mannequinize the figure. So you got the rib cage. I'll draw a box with the rib cage. I'll simplify the arms into cylinders. You got the hip box. Right, you draw all of that on top of the reference, and then once you're good with that, or as an intermediate stage, like you could do this first, and then redraw it on the side second. I've made videos about this that you can look up. Okay, so you do this for a while. You start to understand the perspective in the figure, right? That's all this is. I would not recommend you just learn how to do this and then you just call it a day for your figure drawing, because drawing figures this way is very slow, and it also lacks shape design. Okay, but and don't expect your drawings to be to look good, because box figures are quite boring, and really it's only once you have experience with all the other stuff that I'll show later that you'll be able to make this look better. But for now, you're just simplifying the figure into boxes and cylinders. And a lot of the time, beginners, they overcomplicate things and they make this process too difficult. So realize that you probably have very little knowledge about anatomy, right? So it doesn't matter if you get the box in the wrong. I mean, the figure is not a box, right? This is just a simplification. So stuff's gonna be missing from what an organic figure should look like. Well, I think these shoulders is one of the biggest things that people get confused about. I mean, there's a lot going on with the shoulder. So really what you're looking out for is just what line do I see? What is the angle of the shoulders? And that's really it. Try not to overcomplicate things. Right, so you might want to do this. Angle of shoulders, find the rib cage, and then find the bottom of the hip box. And that can give you, something to work with. Right? And really, most of the stuff here, you'll already know what it is, right? There isn't anything special. You might want to learn how to see the bottom of the rib cage, which I talked about in another video. Like in this model, you can see like the rib cage sort of tapering in, right? So that's how I know the bottom of the last rib cage that's attached will be around there. But even if you get it in the wrong place, maybe it's too low, it's too high, don't worry about it. As long as you're getting the angle of the box correct, more or less, then you're good to go. You can work out the specifics once you start learning your anatomy. So you do this how many times? Maybe you do 100, maybe you do 200, until you're satisfied that you get how to simplify the figure into boxes and cylinders. All right. So yeah, you're only going to need to know a little bit of extra anatomy. Maybe what this bone is. I can't remember. I think I wrote it somewhere. All right. This bone, it's like the top of the hip box. Right. That's where these are. Right. And that's just going to help you find the top of the hip box. Everything else you should know already, right? So where the knees are. I'm sure you learned a song about the different body parts when you were younger. Where the elbow is, where the wrist is, where the shoulder is, where the head is, where the neck is. Like, really know where those things are. keep it simple if you want to, if you don't want to suffer too much. If you do want to suffer too much, then yeah, you're welcome to overcomplicate things. See where I started this leg? You don't need to worry about that. Like, oh, should the leg be up higher or should it be lower? Don't worry about that too much. Just remember, you're thinking perspective. I want to understand the perspective of the figure. That's what this is for. And then if you're a bit more advanced, you can maybe try working with a more organic mannequin. But if that's too difficult, don't worry about it. But what you still can do though, if you can find characters like artwork by different artists that you like, and just draw over, see if you can figure out a mannequin, whether it be something more organic or with boxes. But yeah, drawing from photos will be plenty. Okay, so let's say you've done a bunch of these. Now you're getting good, but you want a bit of extra challenge. Like maybe you're starting to learn anatomy, but you still want to do these. But this is it's a bit too easy for you. So what could you do? Well, I wish I did more of this. But take movies, environments, animations, and just try and figure out what the perspective is. Like where is the horizon line and whatnot. Like in this one, we're looking up, right? You'll find that the horizon line will be below this composition, this frame, right? It's good to do these kind of studies, so so you might have an easier time in the future when you're doing maybe storyboarding or comics and stuff like that. But besides that, yeah, just do a rough breakdown of the perspective, and then just mannequinize the figure in the frame, right? And then just again redraw it again. Just keep it rough. It's doesn't have to be pretty, but it is a very good exercise to get you understanding how not just be able to draw figures like this, right? This is just it's like the same camera angle, same camera distance. Usually there's not much variation, but if you're drawing characters from a scene, right, you get all sorts of angles and all sorts of distances as well. And you're going to get a lot better at perspective if you do this, right? Because you're always working with it, right? In most cases, you learn 1, 2, 3, maybe you draw some buildings, maybe you just draw some boxes here and there, and then you call it a day. But you do this, it's going to be much more practical. If you are more advanced in terms of, if you find this stuff easy, or you're comfortable doing stuff that's more organic, you can also do that, which is pretty much what I do these days. I guess the only downside to this is that most of the figures are going to be clothed, so it might be hard to see where things should go. If you can find some good frames to work with, I definitely recommend doing this. It's going to help you a lot. And you can always come back to this at a different stage. So I would say go look at Tom Fox. I did a lot of studies from Tom Fox's drawings on Instagram, and I'll just copy them. If you've seen my art journey video posted in there, my master studies of his work, so I just see what he was doing, and just copy his drawings, and that would help a lot. I guess the only bad thing about this is that these kind of figures are hidden within videos, right? They're not just posted as images, so you're gonna have to look through those videos and look for the simpler mannequins, because he does draw quite more advanced mannequins, which I'm going to talk about later, because he has an anatomy book now. So yeah, definitely check out Tom Fox. Just copy his drawings so you can find ones like this. Okay, so let's say you don't like this particular mannequin. You don't have to use it, but I will say, say no. It's too awkward. So what does that mean? So okay, we got a mannequin here from Loomis's book. So this, for me, this is very awkward. I would not like to work with this mannequin. And the reason I say that is because if I wanted to draw this from a different angle, it's just too awkward. Especially the hip disc thing. Like this thing. That is, for me, that's just super awkward. So yeah, avoid those. Otherwise, you're gonna run into trouble, because you're gonna look at this and you'll struggle to figure out how to draw it in a different angle. Another thing I really don't like is the underwear shape mannequin thing. If you like it, use it. I think. Just a box for the hip, or just draw a wider cylinder for the hip, something like that. That also works, but I do not like this at all. But again, if you like it, use it, because one thing that works for one person may not work for another. And also we have awkward poses. So this kind of pose, if I see it, I don't want to draw it because it's just awkward. The thing with beginner, intermediate artists, or just artists studying in general, is that you kind of have this feeling where prove to yourself that you can draw anything. So you draw it, and then your drawing looks bad, and then you wonder why it looks bad. And you'll notice that professional artists never draw awkward poses because they know that's it's awkward. They're always going for clarity. So when you're picking your poses, avoid drawing awkward poses, because once you start doing figure composition and all the stuff later, you're never going to be drawing awkward poses like this, right? Because if you zoomed out, the more you zoom out, the less it looks like a figure, and you always want it to look like what it is that you're trying to draw. Like these ones over here, if you zoom out, you can still read it as a figure. With this, you might have a hard time figuring out what that is. So again, if you don't want to be frustrated, choose poses that are nice and clear. Awkward poses aren't going to help you, and I'm sure a lot of people have done that. They want to prove to themselves that they can draw anything, so they'll look for the most awkward pose, like drawing the head from every conceivable angle. You don't need to do that, because there are a lot of angles that you could draw the head in that just won't look good. You just have a handful of angles that you draw the head in, and you're good, right? If you look up animation that you like, comics that you like, and see if you can, you'll notice that everything's always clear, right? They're never drawing awkward. You want an easy life? Draw clear poses. As well as awkward, I will also say avoid advanced mannequins and stylized mannequins. 1010 is, I think, fairly popular. He draws these kind of mannequins, right? I wouldn't recommend using these, especially if you're just at this sort of stage. Because sure, it looks cool. It looks very cool, but I think it's gonna be very hard to work with. I think there's too much going on. Yeah, it looks cool, but you've got the hip separated into this thing, you got this thing, they got this, and it's probably gonna be difficult for you to use. But you can always, once you're more advanced, come back and then look at this, and then I think that'll be a better way of using this sort of stuff. What he is also good for, or they're good for, is just highlighting these planes. That'll be useful when you start painting. So yeah, avoid this stuff. It's just too stylized, too advanced, but you can always come back and try and use it when you've got more experience. But yeah, I look at this. For me, I wouldn't want to draw in this way because it's just too much going on. I like to keep my figures as simple as possible, but they do look cool. So yeah, I didn't mention it here, but I did mention it later. So what else you could do is you could draw figures from imagination. Might be difficult, not needed. You could do that. And that's really it for the form stuff. You do these. If you're a bit more advanced, you can make your mannequin more organic. Highly recommend you do these, right? And it's a lot more fun than doing this, because not only do you get to study how to draw the figure in different positions and distances, you get to learn a bit about composition as you do it as well. For instance, you got the basic 1/3, 2/3. Everything's at an angle, so maybe that could mean something. But yeah, there's a lot to learn from just doing this sort of study, which I wish I did more of. Okay, so you're good at this stuff. Now what do you do? Well, now I can really start thinking about anatomy. Oh, yeah, and don't forget, this stage is not for making pretty drawings. Alright, so anatomy is going to take a lot of work. I think I mentioned before, but I think I studied anatomy like 4 times or 3 times before I really understood it. So yeah, the skeleton. When I was learning the skeleton, I did like really detailed drawings, or way more detailed than is necessary. So I'm gonna save you that trouble, unless you really want to draw a detailed skeleton. But I do like this Loomis diagram here because all the bones, like most of the bones here, are gonna, they're actually gonna serve you. Right, and there's, I don't know how many bones there are, but of the ones that you probably want to know are right here. So, and I just added one because I think it's important, because a lot of artists, and even I do it, will draw this, especially from like a three-quarter view. It just, just kind of looks cool. Yeah, so it's complicated, but really you could just simplify it down into this. You don't need to make it complicated. I'm not really thinking about the skeleton that much, but I know what's underneath, and that's enough really. So all this stuff you can just simplify, as you see here, and yeah, once you learn that, get familiar with the bones just to help you as you're studying anatomy, and then later on you'll forget it, like I have. The reason you want to learn the skeleton is because it's going to be helpful to know where the muscles attach on the bone. Just generally, it doesn't have to be anything specific. I was looking at my older anatomy studies, and I could just see how I didn't really know where things attached too well, and so I noticed that I was drawing a deltoid like in the wrong place. But yeah, so simple skeleton, just to help you figure out where things should go. But yeah, it is good to know like what the rib cage is doing and the hips are doing. But really, it's kind of a discovery process. You'll start to realize what's important for the way you draw. Yeah, so once you have got a bit familiar with the skeleton, you can start doing your, muscle studies. The first thing you probably want to do is start with the torso, because everything attaches to the torso. And here's some studies that I did in a video that I posted, torso anatomy. I look at it now, the scapula probably comes out a bit more, but I never feel like that's the reason I can't draw a certain thing. Make lots of diagrams, like I have here. They don't need to be perfect. Knowing where things attach can be very helpful. Another thing you want to do is simplify. Here's a study I did in 2022. If I'm drawing the figure, I don't want to, I'm not worried about every single muscle. So the grouping is much more important. Really, the simplification of the anatomy, that's going to make all the difference, right? Knowing where every little muscle is, I guess maybe it'll help, but the groupings of this stuff, way more important. Yeah, you just take your time, learn, like pick a body part and just do studies for that for like, I don't know, maybe a month or a few weeks, or however much time you feel like you need. Yeah, study it, draw diagrams like I have here, and once you feel like you've plateaued, move on to next body part until you've got around to everything. And also, as you're doing this, you're doing your daily figure drawing practice as well. Right, so you hopefully you'll start seeing improvements as your understanding of this stuff gets better. Okay, so got my hand studies. I mean, these are stylized, so this is something you might end up doing a bit later. This is something I learned from Western. Right, stuff like this that helps me find where things are on the figure. So simplifications go a long way. You got the feet. So what you're going to want to do as well is not only just study the muscles, but you're going to want to study the range of motion. Also here, I write study normal. I underline normal because just because some people can do certain things doesn't mean you'll want to learn that as normal range of motion. Alright, so here, like the hands will do, like they have this range of motion, And also you can move your hand left and right as well. So you want to learn that, what the normal range of motion is for this sort of stuff. Because, you know, once you start inventing figures, you need to know what you can do without breaking the figure. So yeah, you're going to want to do that. So like if I'm studying forearm in their hand, I'm going to want to also study the range of motion of that part of the body as well. And like, you know, the upper arm doesn't really move, so it just moves around the ball joint of your shoulder. But then you got the forearm, right? The forearm it can do more than the upper arm, right? So you learn these things as you study. So not just what muscles are there, but what can that part of the body do. Okay, so a good place to start is I'd say, you know, get your anatomy book and just copy their drawings for a while. That might help you get started. And you can also grab some reference photos and just draw the ref. Just draw the anatomy where you see it. Right now, so get the rough placements. Doesn't have to be accurate. Like, I'm not being accurate here, but I just want to understand where things would roughly go. So you do that for a while, and then just like we did with the box figures, right? If you're doing this for a while, you can start drawing that thing on the side next to it, right? So obviously you're not going to draw the anatomy over the whole figure, right? I mean, whatever you've learned, like you're doing the torso, you'll just draw over the torso. Yeah, it really will help a lot, because you do this, you know, you'll teach yourself to see where things should go, right? And then when you draw it, you know, that'll translate. So do this a lot for whatever part of the body you're studying, and once you do that, start making diagrams. So here's like a 2D approach that I've seen Will Weston do. So it's just like this rectangle, and then it's like another rectangle, and then you can use that as a guide to draw on top of. So that'd be one way to do it. I'm sure there's other ways to do it. Here's another way. So if you just can't get away from boxes and cylinders just yet, you can still work with those. Here I have my hitbox, and I've got a cylinder for the upper leg, right? Just like how you might draw a box mannequin. And I draw the form, and then you think of wrapping the muscles around the form. Alright, so that's what I did in step 2. And then just for extra understanding, you can add contour lines. Alright, and lots of these diagrams exist on the internet. So if you're struggling to do your own, just copy someone else's until you can do your own. And again, your drawings will look pretty boring, but I wouldn't worry about it, because I'm going to talk about this in a bit, but you probably haven't done much with gesture just yet. I mean, in their anatomy diagrams, so just let them be that, right? You're not trying to design just yet, unless maybe this is your second, third, fourth round of doing anatomy. Then, you know, it'll be worth your time to design some stuff as well. Yeah, so that's the process, really. You learn the basic skeleton, and again, pick your resource. I'm going to talk about that in a second. Start with the torso, and then work your way to the other body parts. Draw lots of diagrams, copy diagrams from books, and always be thinking that you are wanting to simplify the muscles for your own sake. Okay, so yeah, do studies of all the different body parts, and as you do that, learn what the range of motion is. So the scapula is going to be a big one to learn about, and how it moves. And you're going to want it to draw over the ref, like you see me do here. You do that, do your own drawing next to it. Let it look terrible, because that's fine. It probably will look terrible because you might not have a studied shape design just yet. And yeah, 2 approaches. You could use the flat shape, or use your boxes and cylinders to do this, and then wrap the muscles around the forms. Alright, so who can we learn from? So my favorite is Will Weston, because his simplifications are probably the best that I've seen. So my personal favorite, and he's actually coming out with a book sometime soon. So check that out. You got Michael Hampton as a book, Figure Drawing, Design and Invention. Also very good. Maybe someone you want to look at for the skeleton, because like I remember, the skeleton is simplified in there as well. They have Morpho. So this book is just really grouping muscles, simplifying the anatomy. So it's it's form and anatomy sort of fused together, right? Because like I can see the form in this leg, but it's also anatomical. That'll be good to do. And in this book, there's just lots of drawings, which is good because then you can just copy it. Copying is going to be a very big part of your learning, and it has been for me. Even though I didn't really realize it in the beginning, I was copying a lot, and it's only recently that I've sort of recommending that to other people. So yeah, these books are very good. I mean, obviously there's other books out there, so use what you can get your hands on. Then you have Stonehouse Anatomy. This book is good, but it is too detailed. There's so much stuff in this book that you're probably never going to need. Right, you'll be able to draw figures just fine without a lot of knowledge from this book. But that being said, because it's so detailed, if there's a certain thing about your anatomy studies that just doesn't make sense to you, this book will be able to clear that up for you, most likely. So yeah, I'd say Stonehouse Anatomy is more of a reference book for when there's something that you don't understand and it's not really explained very well in maybe one of these books. I would go to this. Then you have Tom Fox's anatomy book. Again, also too detailed, but because it's detailed, it can provide clarity for you. So yeah, I'll take these two books, 1 and 2, as more reference books, because you wouldn't want to just study these books on their own. It's just too much. You'll be overwhelmed, and you'll probably end up learning stuff that doesn't really matter. So yeah, learn from multiple sources, right? Because maybe something that Paul Weston does, you like. Maybe you like the way, this butterfly representation of the what's it called, gluteus maximus. Maybe you like that. Maybe okay, you'll go to Michael Hampton, and then maybe you'll like the way they draw this thing, and then maybe you like the way Morpho shows this thing. What ends up happening is that you take bits and pieces from all these teachers, and then you sort of have your own, I guess, unique approach that's going to work specifically for you. Some books might be better explaining one thing than the other, so it really is worth your while to learn from multiple sources. Because when I started, I didn't know all the answers. I just tried stuff. If I didn't like it, discard it. If I liked it, I kept it. And then we have Taco, and I'd say it's probably the best resource for anatomy. There's also simplification, which is, that is exactly what you need. You need simplification. You can get detailed, but then now you go, okay, that's the details, but what is the simplification? Because the simplification is what you're going to draw, right? You're not going to be drawing this. I mean, I never do this unless I'm drawing an anatomy diagram. So Taco, very, 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 very good resource to look at. I love it. I love the notes that he makes. You learn all this anatomy, and you're doing your figure drawing daily, or whatever schedule you can work with. So what are you aiming for? Well, like I just said, you're aiming for simplification. You're aiming for something that you can work with, a mannequin that is yours. Okay, so you got Will Weston. So you'll see these, if you look in his notes, you'll see these more simpler figures, right? And this is all just made up of a bit of form and shape. Right, this is the goal. Right? You might be doing all this complicated stuff for a while just to get you to understand what's going on, but your goal is this. Alright, so I got Steve on drawing stuff here. So, you know, what your mannequin looks like will depend on, you know, who you've learned from, artists that you've studied, and what you like to simplify, what you like to exaggerate. It's all going to depend on the path you've taken. So you got Steve Arn, then you got Amador. Amador is very, very good. I really like his drawings. Very loose, very gestural. You know, everyone draws at different levels, or different finishes, I guess, for their mannequin, right? So Steve Arn's is a bit more tight. I don't know, maybe I couldn't find other ones, but I imagine probably draws at this sort of level normally. Amador, you know, does these as well. He has his figure drawing videos on YouTube, so you can see him do that as well. You have Chris Copeland. Well, normally draws with like all these kind of brushes are quite pencil-y, but if you see his drawings, they're all like one line, it's like a hard brush, no opacity. It just depends what you're comfortable with. But yeah, so your end goal is like your not end goal, because you know you're always going to be getting better as time goes on. You're trying to simplify the anatomy as the best you can, and that works for you. This is not your goal. This is just kind of helping you get to your goal, because you understand, okay, this is what's underneath. Now how do I simplify that for my needs? All right, so simplifying, very important, and developing your own mannequin. That's what you want to need. That's what you want to do, because whenever you're drawing figures for animation, storyboard, comics, illustration, you know, the mannequin, your mannequin is your starting point. So just keep that in mind as you do all this, and yeah, and look what pros do. And that means, what are they? So if this is what's going on, what are they drawing? What are they simplifying? Right, you look at how they do it, and then yeah, you're gonna be doing it a lot. So okay, so yeah, anatomy, skeleton, learn all that. Then start with the torso. Copy from books, draw your own diagrams, make your way to other body parts. Realize that you're probably going to have to repeat this process quite a few times before it really solidifies. Study the range of motion, draw over reference, draw diagrams, draw boring diagrams, right? And learn from multiple teachers, right? It's going to take quite a while for you to get good at this stuff, right? Learn from multiple teachers, and realize that some books are just very detailed, and that you might just want to use them as reference. Okay, and remember that your goal is simplification, so that you can draw loosely and invent figures like this, and always be watching the pros, always. Okay, so what's next? You've done your form, you've done your anatomy. So what do you do next? Well, I say next, but you could mix things up, right? Maybe, you know, you do your anatomy, or maybe you do your form, and then you can do shape. That also works as well. I'm more just telling you what there is to do with figure drawing, so just keep that in mind, that you can sort of mix up the order of things. So shape. So really, form is, you know, understanding all this stuff. But you're learning to see it, you draw it, you got it, good. Okay, but drawing form in this sort of way is quite slow. So what you really want to do is simplify it just to its shape, right? Because the shape on its own could tell us a lot, right? Because I've drawn these curved, that will tell me it's a cylinder, or it could indicate that it's a cylinder. Going from this to this is going to be important, because with shape, there's more room in your brain, I guess, to think about design, and like I said, it's going to help you draw faster. You'll be thinking less about form, although it's still there, working in your mind, but like your active thinking is going to be shape and design, right? Because you'll be so good that you draw shape, you know, you just add one line, and then that'll be enough to describe the form. So what you want to do is learn shape design principles. There aren't many, so you know, you got simple versus complex, you've got big, medium, small, circles, squares, triangles, asymmetry, and so on. And then once you've learned those, now every time you draw the figure, you always want to be thinking about these, well, or at least at the very least, simple versus complex. Simple versus complex when it comes to the figure. Like, always want to be thinking of that. Always, right? In the same way, when you first start drawing form, you know, things were a bit tough. You're always thinking about, all right, where's my vanishing point? Are these lines converging and all that stuff? But eventually, you know, you started drawing more boxes. Okay, you know, you got 100, 200, whatever. Once you do that, you know, you sort of know where the vanishing point is. You know, you can draw a box without having to think too much. You want to do that thing with shape design as well. So that means in the beginning, you're going to be thinking about this all the time. Every decision, got to do it. Where's my simple? Where's my complex? At some point, it'll become automatic as well. It'll just be a natural process, a natural part of your drawing process. Okay, so in the beginning, you got to think about it all the time. Now that might slow you down a bit, but that's, you know, it's part of it. And so yeah, eventually you'll be making good design choices naturally, because you've thought about it so much that you just, when you draw, it looks good, because it's just natural for you to design in that way. So now that you know the rules, now that you're doing shape, you know, now it's time to design everything. Literally everything that you do. Always an opportunity just to get better. So, you know, if you're doing figures, why not get good at it? So, you know, maybe you're drawing clothing, an opportunity to design, right? So you want to get out of this mindset that I need to copy everything that I see in the reference. Yeah, if the reference doesn't look good, you know, you can change stuff using shape design principles to make it look better. So, design everything. Alright, so how do we get better at this besides just using it in our own drawings? Well, you study the pros that have good shape design, amazing shape design. It's just as a heads up here, a lot of these artists are, you know, the artists that I like, the styles that I like, so whatever artists you like, just replace them here. But I will say, if you study animation, I think, you know, animators tend to have more fun shapes, I'd say. So you might want to just look at them, even if you're doing more realistic stuff. The more realistic you get, it might be harder for you to see the shape design. You know, with this graphics sort of, you can see it, and it'll be easier for you to study. Okay, so this is by Sean Galloway. I'm gonna look at this shape, and I'm gonna break it down. What is Sean Galloway doing here? Okay, well, I've got a simple on this side, and I've got a complex on this side. Alright, you look for it everywhere. But yeah, you draw over their work, and then find out, well, where is all this stuff? Can I see it in their work? Alright, you just do that over and over and over and over again. And also, like, what kind of shapes do you see? Are there repeating shapes? There's so much that goes into this, and it's going to take a lot of work. Just, you know, just like with everything else that you've been doing. And of course, if you want to do some shape design as you're doing your anatomy, you know, go for it. Whatever you can handle. But yeah, animation shapes, very fun. Right, you've got this, you basically got that. So study artists that you like. I studied a lot of Corinne's Couchard. So you just go in there and look for the shape design principles. Where are they working? Right, and then you'll find a lot of the time that's a big part of what makes their drawings so good. Do that again. I got Chris Copeland, got Astro Boy. I mean, I love this. It looks so cool. Right, so again, you just go in there, break it down. Right, you look at that shape, well, okay, yes, I like that shape. Could I use it in my own drawing? Right, that's going to be something I want to talk about in a second. We also have this artist that I've learned about maybe last year. Very, very, very cool shape design, in my opinion. Everything's very graphic, so I would definitely recommend looking up this artist, because I mean, I think all they do is figure drawing, so it's perfect. And also have some lighting as well that will help give you an idea of what planes are facing down, what planes are facing up. But yeah, very, very, very cool artists. Love their shapes. And I'm going to mention TB Joy quite a few times here. You know, TB Joy is absolutely fantastic. And not only that, she teaches and she puts class notes on her, you know, her social media. So go and check that out. And again, you'll break it down, see how the shape design is working. And it might seem too simple, but that is really all it is, right? You're learning to see the good shape design, right? In the same way that you learn to see the boxes and cylinders of the figure. Yeah, whatever artist you like. I mean, it doesn't have to be figure drawing strictly, or figures. You know, you can do you can learn shape design in many places, but given that we are doing figure drawing here, probably best to just stick to figure drawing work to study from. And we have Bill Otomo, I think. This is what I did in the shape design video that I made. I can't remember the title, but you know, you can design. Well, characters are typically designed with all this in mind, so you can go there and find the shapes as well. This might be, well, it's definitely going to be important for character design. So yeah, you're going in there, you're looking for the shape design, how's it working, you do that, and not only do you do that, but you also do your master studies, and lots of them, right? That's the theme here, with all this stuff, and as you form, you can do a lot of studies, and it's good to take breaks. Obviously you're not going to do the arm for like half a year, probably not the best use of your time, so you might do it for a month, move on to something else, and then come back to it, and then maybe you'll realize something that is missing. So again, I studied a lot of crayons in the past, so yeah, it's going to take a lot of effort to get good at this stuff. So, you know, if you're terrible in the beginning, that's pretty normal. And also, this is where your style is going to develop, right? Because you're studying the shape language of artists that you like, right? And you're going to eventually attempt to draw in their style, right? So that part of that is drawing with shapes that they use. Obviously there's lots to do with style, like the way they render, line quality and all that stuff, but as far as shape goes, it's going to play a big part in your style. So do studies of artists that you like and try to imitate their style, but know that it's going to be difficult to do, but important if you want to develop your own style. Alright, so this is, I posted this in my art journey video, and it's just me, you know, attempting to draw like crayons. So like, I'm thinking what kind of shapes does he use, like is the gesture, and it goes a long way. It really does go a long way, but it is difficult. So just make sure you understand that you're not going to be doing studies of work that you like and be done with it. It's going to take a lot of effort on your end. You know, this anatomy stuff, you know, life drawing teachers can help you, you know, understand the figure. But if you want to, you're trying to develop your own style, really there aren't any books out there that teach you how to draw like crayons, right? There's no book out there that teaches you to draw like Sean Galloway. If you want to draw like Sean Galloway or crayons, you just have to look at their work, copy it, understand it, and then try and draw in their style. Alright, you'll fail a bunch of times and you'll try again. Okay, so what's next? You got gesture, right, and what I call the true beast. The true beast of figure drawing. So here, really, gesture, you can do at any stage of this process. You know, the reason I say start with form is because this is difficult, right? A lot of you will know that it's difficult because you're trying to learn it right now. I was trying to learn it, but I gave up because I just don't understand it. So I was just doing form and anatomy, and then I was like, I really don't like the way my figures look. What do? I realized that I got to do this gesture thing, and so I just spent like a whole month just trying to understand it, didn't do anything else, and eventually I got it. So that was a very good experience because it really changed the way I see drawing figures, or just drawing in general. Actually, really changed. Or at least I hadn't drawn figures for a while, so I did some gesture studies. I can't remember where these are from, but you know, I'm just scribbling. I'm trying to find some rhythm here and there. It is very fun. And yes, gesture is worth your time. And if it's too difficult, one option would be to just do a little bit at a time. Okay, so you're doing form, learn a bit of gesture. You're doing anatomy, learn a bit of gesture. You're doing shape, learn a bit of gesture and shape. Well, gesture is going to help everything actually. So, but yeah, just try and learn it. If it's too difficult, just do a little bit at a time, and then maybe you can dedicate like a month or a few weeks to gesture. See if that helps as well. So gesture, right? Gesture is abstract, so you know, I'm sure a lot of artists think of it in different ways. Here's some gesture drawing by TB Choi. Alright. And the main focus really is, well, she's using shape, right? And the shape is gestural as well. And there's rhythm, right? So it's like, got this sort of line, going there, and this goes all the way there. There's lots of rhythm there. It's really nice, right? So that's what gesture is really. We're trying to see this abstract stuff, and then we build on top of it. You also have Ahmed Duri. So his drawings are very loose, very gestural. So the reason I like it is just, it's just the way he draws. I can't really explain it, but I would look at Ahmed Al-Duri if you're looking for a style of gesture, I guess, or just learning how to be loose. They have Grizz and Norm. They have a lot of drawings on their Instagram page. What I want to demonstrate here is that gesture drawings can look different, but they all kind of follow the same idea. And the way one artist does it will be different from another artist. We got Rad Seacrest as well. It's just showing his notes for gesture, like all these rhythms down here. Talks about exaggerating. There's not much for me to say. You can just look at how other artists do it. You can even copy their gesture drawings as well. Right, like you can do this. Or like I have this book, and I would just copy like a few drawings from the book every day, because I'm trying to do what they're talking about, like getting the line quality and getting these rhythms. So I just copy their drawing and I try to understand it through their drawings. And that worked for me. So yeah, where to learn gesture. So you have Mike Matese of 4-string. Good thing about this is, well, for me anyway, Mike Matese comes from animation. So the way he teaches this is from an animation perspective. And also there's a system to the gesture, right? So you might look at what Ahmed Al-Duri's doing, and then you might be confused. Like he understands what he's doing. You look at it and you might be confused. I mean, Rad Seacrest obviously has a system, but as far as I'm aware, doesn't have a book. But Mike Matese does. And he's got YouTube channels as well. That'll be someone to look at. Michael Hampton also has a system in his book that I showed up here. Figure drawing, design, and invention. And Michael Hampton and Mike Matese both have YouTube channels where they post, content about this stuff that you can look at and you can follow along and draw. Which again, isn't this a common theme? You want to get better? Copy, right? Look at what the pros are doing. Okay, so yeah, there are more approaches out there. The bulk of mine came from Mike Matese of 4-string. I looked at Michael Hampton a bit, just for a little bit. There are other teachers for gesture, so you can look those up. And again, if one approach doesn't work for you, just find one that does. So you're just experimenting, trying different stuff. In the same way, you learnt anatomy. Like when I bought this book, and I was just like, okay, this is just so detailed. Like I don't even know where to really begin. But then I came across Western. I'm like, oh, these simplifications are, fantastic. So it worked for me, but maybe for you, it might not work. So the only way to really know is to experiment. Okay, so we've gone through the big 4: gesture, shape, anatomy, and form. So what do you do now? So really, you're going to try and get better. So you're going to go through form, anatomy, gesture, shape. Like you'll do them quite a few times, maybe some more than others, and you'll just keep trying to get better and better at drawing figures. So what can you do? Right, so I say beyond, but you could do them at any time really. But I mean, if you have no experience drawing and you're trying to do figure invention, it's not going to work out too well. So yes, things that we could do. So we got figure invention, right? So that means maybe taking a ref and modifying it for what you need, or just straight up drawing a figure from imagination. And it's also a good way to test your current figure drawing skills, right? Because if you're trying to draw something and you realize don't really know how this part of the body works, maybe that's a sign that you should go back and study that thing again. So this is one that I did for the class that I took recently. Figure invention is going to be important for a lot of figure artists. You can draw figures in environments as well. So you have Suheb Zarko, So again, this is right. You're doing with the boxes, right? When I was talking about studying from movies, animation, right? Well, basically, this stuff is going to help you with this, right? Because we've got a character here. We've got our ground plane, right? Well, this is ground plane, and I think these are steps, right? But the perspective's different. And how often, unless you practice it, how often do you draw a figure at this scale? Like when you're doing your figure drawing practice, right? So, and you also have to realize, okay, at this scale, there isn't going to be as much detail in the figure than if they're close up. So that's going to be something to practice as well. Again, you can, just take this and just draw over it, break it down. Then we have also figure lighting. Again, you can do all of these things at pretty much any stage. How good you do them, how well you can do them, is going to depend on, how good you are with, all these things. So that's why we got to go back and make sure we're really good at those four things. Yeah, so you got figure lighting. All right, so that might be, this stuff is, all this art is, styles that I like. So you can just fill in with art that you like. So one artist that's really good for that, there's lots of examples, is Toshi. Right, and so you can see here we've got I'm just demonstrating lighting from the top and from the bottom, right, and what planes are going to be in shadow, what planes are going to be in light. So it says Korgen here, which just means light source. So saying light source from here, or from there as well. So you can see how he's they're designing shapes, right? Because the light and dark shapes, the light and shadow shapes are, they're shapes, and they're, right, remember what I said earlier, design everything. When you're doing this, even if something might not look too realistic, if you design it well, it doesn't matter. Okay, so that's something to keep in mind. Yeah, and if you just look up Toshi, you'll find loads of poses with lighting added to them as well, so you can study that. But all this stuff really is just, how do you light a sphere and an egg or a cylinder? But cylinders and spheres are going to make up the bulk of that. Okay, so if you're struggling with this, learn how to just light basic forms, and you come back and then study work from artists like this, and then see how they're designing it, right? So some things are not going to look realistic, but they're going to look good because they were designed well. Right in here we have a model sheet. You can see how the lighting becomes part of the design as well. This one's by Power Jelly. Again, you can see the lighting, right? And really, I'm only starting to do all this lighting stuff now, and I wish I did it earlier as well. So if you want to develop faster than I did, then take note of what I'm telling you. Okay, so another thing you can do is figure composition. So that could be storyboarding, right? So again, you're drawing figures in environments. Okay, so they're going to be at different positions. Well, this figure's quite short. Okay, so that's one thing you could do, right? You can start making your own comics as well. I can't say this name very well, Nicola something, but very, very cool artist. And of course, you can start learning how to animate. And then you have illustration, right? So there's Norman Rockwell. So you're just learning how to place figures in a scene, maybe by themselves, or interacting with other figures like this, right? Look at them, they're all like super close. That's just part of the story. Telling stories. That's part of the storytelling element of this. So yes, what else could you do? You could start learning how to pose characters and do character acting. Alright, so you make pose sheets like this. And also notice that triangle composition. So we're always thinking about this stuff, right? You got CT Christ there. Yeah, this stuff is actually quite hard, character acting. Like, to be really good at it, it's actually quite hard. But again, you know, if you're good with everything this way on the screen, it's going to make it easier for you to do this stuff. Here we have Nicola again. Bill Automo. One of my favorites, Kaiserilla. Makes these super cool pose sheets. And really what you can do with this stuff is, I mean, you can just take another character and then pose him, like Kaiserilla is doing here. What they call it, the flash, right? You can just take a character and just, you know, pose them in different ways and put it in the sheet. Again, not easy, but if that's something you want to do, well, you just got to do it. Got to practice, look at the pros, and see what you can understand. Right, and again, all that stuff down this way, gesture form and anatomy, shape, it's going to help you understand what they're doing better as well. We have TB Choi. TB Choi, again, fantastic artist, very good resource. But yeah, look all this stuff. This is way more interesting than, you know, your figure drawing practice like this, right? You know, I mean, you know, a cute pose or whatever. If you can get good at that and get good at gesture and shape to really push the feeling of whatever it is you're trying to draw, you know, you can end up with stuff like this, right? Super gestural, lots of great acting. Also have Amy Thompson. I mean, there's loads of artists. You just find artists that you like and look at what they're doing. They also have costume drawings, right? So you're learning how to put clothes on your figures, right? So I think some people find it quite hard. And again, you know, remember what I said, design everything. Even the costume drawing, because, you know, clothes in real life, you know, if you look at them, they don't look, the folds aren't like appealing everywhere. You might have folds here, and it just, sometimes it just looks awkward. So you're gonna have to design, right? If a fold looks awkward, just take it out of the drawing. But I mean, before you start all of that, you want to learn the physics of clothing. So you do that, you understand it, you do studies like I did here. This is an old study I did. You do that for a while, and then once you're ready, you can start designing. If that was too hard for you in the beginning, and you look at, you know, clothing from other artists and see what they're simplifying. And what you will notice is that, well, depending on the style, there'll be a nice shape that they might use, like one part of the costume, right? So you might want to use that, and then you can use that as a base, and then maybe draw some extra detail on top. So again, lots of artists that you can look at. Now this artist, Shirahama Kamame, is very good with like these folds. So I'll check them out as well. You know, you got characters and you put them in different clothes. Right, you'll be able to do this once you're a bit more advanced. But yeah, really, you're going to study from reference for clothes drawing, but for drawing clothes. But you also want to look at what other artists are doing and how they're simplifying. Because, you know, if you don't design anything, then, you know, the clothing just doesn't look too good. In my opinion, anyway. And then the last thing I have here is character design. So that's another thing you can work on as well. The storytelling, the character, all shapes, all that stuff. So again, all this stuff, form, gesture, anatomy, shape, it's all going to help with this stuff. Alright, because with the folds, I mean there's form in this folds, right? That's you can see the way the artist is hatching, right? It's along the form, like it flows quite nicely as well. Yeah, so that is it. That is what your figure drawing map might look like. Right, you know what the main four are: gesture, shape, anatomy, and form, and you work on all of them. Get good at all of them. Get good enough so that you can start working on the fun stuff. Right, like lighting, well, figure composition, designing characters, post sheets. Bit of a long video, but I hope that was helpful. If there's anything I missed, just let me know, and then maybe I'll make an updated video in the future. And I was also thinking I might make one for head drawing as well. So, yeah, I'll see what you want from me. But yeah, I'll stop there. So, you know what to do now. Now you just have to go out and do it. And, you know, maybe suffer a little bit. Alright, I'll see you all in the next one. Bye bye.